Your movie, my movie, their movie, our movie. Your movie, my movie, their movie, our movie. Your movie, my movie, their movie, our movie. Yeah!
Hi, welcome to Your Movie, My Movie with Dan and Steve.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve. This is a podcast where one of us picks a movie for us to watch and discuss. In this episode, we're talking about one of Dan's picks, the 1984 movie Repo Man, starring Harry Dean Stanton and Emilio Estevez, and was written and directed by Alex Cox. We will be talking about spoilers, so if you want to watch the movie first, now's the time to do so. But before we talk about the movie, Dan, who would you recommend this movie for?
I would recommend this movie for white suburban punks. to quote this movie.
Okay.
And I don't know, people who like punk music, people who are sort of on the fringes of dissatisfied with society, I guess. People who are dissatisfied with society.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to just be white suburban punks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Gen Xers, and I don't know. Who would you recommend it for?
I would recommend this movie to fans of the movie Twister who want to see why Dusty, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, talks about this movie. If you want to know why that guy talks about this movie, just watch it. And that's what I'm going to say. I mean,
that's so freaking funny. I've seen Twister once. It's Sierra's favorite movie.
It's a great movie. It's a surprisingly great movie.
It's pretty fun.
You wouldn't think that a movie about tornadoes would be, interesting, engaging, or funny, or action-packed. But it is.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I'm pretty sure it was directed by Jan de Bont, who was also he was the DP for Die Hard.
Ah,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. He was also the director for Speed as well.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yes. But let's not talk about those movies. I mean, so the thing is, we're here to talk about Repo Man, but I don't want to talk about Repo Man. I don't want to talk about it.
Why?
People should just fucking watch the movie.
I mean, yeah.
Watch the movie. I mean,
but what did you think about it? Did you like it in the sense that
I did like it? I did
so
like
you
it.
should watch it because you liked it, or just because it's a good movie, or what?
I mean, it's so the thing is it's a great movie. It is a great movie. It's a wonderful movie to watch. Yeah. I think everybody should watch it. But it's so hard to talk about.
It's so bizarre. The whole movie is so insane.
Yeah.
This is only my second time watching it, and I feel just as lost as the first time.
Well, that's because there's nothing to be found in this. You know what I mean? You're supposed to get lost in it.
Yeah.
The really funny thing is that watching this movie, you know what other movie this movie reminds me the most of?
What?
George Washington.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No. Not at all.
Wow. So how does it rank on the George Washington scale?
This movie is far, far better than George Washington. But they're both really similar movies, and where there's this weird world. With all these strange characters that inhabit it, and they're all talking weird shit to each other.
Okay, but I feel like they're not that weird, because literally last night, I was sitting outside of a kava bar, because there was a meeting there, and Sierra was helping out with the show for the Playhouse, and she's kind of helping crew, stage manage type thing. Anyways, I wasn't in the play, but I was listening to them rehearse. And this guy sits down next to me, or I sit down next to him, I don't remember. And he starts talking to me about me. I mean, wow. He starts talking to me about just the most random, insane stuff. He's like, Yeah, man, you don't know half the shit I've been through in my life, man. I've been to prison. I've had to shank a man. It's like just like all this like insane stuff. I don't know. This movie isn't that far out there if you know enough weird people.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the same could be said for George Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Is you're in clear. I mean,
we're going to have to watch it for the show.
No, we are not.
Yes, we are. Or at least for like, if we ever make a Patreon, we're gonna have to watch it for that.
Maybe. I'd rather it be like this show that we always talk about, but we'll never actually watch for the show. I'd rather it be that. Yeah.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, if people want to watch it and know what the hell I'm talking about, they can do that on their own time. For sure.
George Washington.
Yeah.
2000 or 2001, I think.
Directed by David Gordon Green?
Yes, David Gordon Green.
And who's the cinematographer?
I don't remember, but the cinematographer, David Gordon... Wait, let me look it up.
Okay.
But the cinematographer for this movie, Repo Man, was Robbie Mueller, who happens to be one of my favorite, if not my favorite cinematographers. He's done a lot of random things. Very much his time period was in the 80s and 90s. That was like his heyday, Robbie Mueller. And I don't remember when he passed away, but he passed away like earlier than he probably should have. But anyways, let me look up George Washington. Tim Orr. Okay, so this makes a lot of sense. So David Gordon Green went on to direct The Pineapple Express, amongst other Seth Rogen movies, such as... I'm trying to remember what else he did. Anyways, it looks like Tim Orr also was the cinematographer for Pineapple Express and a bunch of other sort of comedies, like Danny McBride-looking comedies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like they kind of teamed up, Tim Orr and David Gordon Green. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, David Gordon Green also wrote and looks like directed Halloween, the 2018 remake.
Yeah.
Which is very weird.
Yeah. Well, you need money and you need to prove you can make a studio movie at some point.
Yeah.
So.
He also did Prince Avalanche, which looked interesting to me.
I know nothing about that movie.
It's just a Paul Rudd movie.
Oh, okay.
Looks really interesting, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, back on track to Repo Man.
Yeah.
This movie's so weird.
Yes, it is. It's great.
It's so great.
And it's a really good look at the punk movement in the 80s, for sure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something I was quite obsessed with for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still somewhat interested in, for sure.
I can tell. The dissatisfaction with suburban and urban life. And
yes. I'm wearing a Dead Kennedy shirt that my friend made me and painted themselves.
What could be more punk than that?
Exactly. Anyways.
Which is great. You know? So the funniest thing about this movie to me is that Harry Dean Stanton gets top billing.
Yes. Well, I guess I don't know how much Emilio Estevez was in The Breakfast Club in 1984, I believe.
Yeah.
And this movie came out in 1984 as well. So, like, I don't think he was a big name yet. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But I don't know how big of a name Harry Dean Stanton is because...
He's not a big name.
Well, I mean, even back then, he's a known actor. He's a great actor. He was in Alien before this, I know. And he was also in Red Dawn, which came out the same year as this.
Okay.
Yeah, which is so funny because, in that movie, he plays the father of the sons who hide out in the Colorado Rockies when the Soviets and Nicaragua invades the United States.
Okay.
And so Harry Dean Stanton plays their father who taught them to be real Americans and then how to hunt on their own and all this other stuff. And he was put in a re-education camp. Mm. And so his sons, they come out of hiding to see him. And he's like, avenge me! Avenge me! And so it's so funny because at the end of Repo Man, he goes, I'd rather die on my knees. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And I'm like,
what a legendary line.
But it's like, wait a minute. Which movie came out first? Which movie was made first?
Bro, this it's just so crazy.
And, another thing about other movies is like, we've talked about heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
And this feels like a movie that influenced heavy metal, right?
Yes.
The thing is, heavy metal came out in 1981.
Yeah.
And this came out in 1984.
Well, I mean, it feels like it could have been influenced by heavy metal. I mean,
it could be an influence. I doubt it was an influence on Alex Cox. I mean, it could have been. But it's also that thing where so many people at the same time have so many other influences. It's like a parallel thing.
Yes.
But yeah, this movie feels...
I'm sure it was influenced by Heavy Metal Magazine because Repo Man was originally going to be a comic, I think.
Oh. By Alex Cox? Alex Cox as well?
I believe so. I
Okay.
mean, I have like this collector's edition Blu-ray of this, and there's like the art of this comic book that they started to write, and then they're like, let's make it a movie, I think.
Okay.
I mean, all this is very, I think.
Yeah, we are not experts.
No, we have not researched.
Yeah, do your own research because you'll probably, just use the same sources.
And you'll have more fun doing your own research.
For sure. Yeah, that's one of the great things about this movie.
But also, this movie came out in 1984, which is the same year Paris, Texas came out.
Okay.
Which is which stars Harry Dean Stanton.
Okay.
And was shot by the same cinematographer, Robbie Mueller.
Okay, I have not seen Paris.
You're gonna watch it,
okay?
Because it's the indie movie of the 80s.
You know what? We were talking about doing an Emilio Estevez, film marathon for this show.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we also? I mean, it could also be a Harry Dean Stanton.
It literally could, because I have a few Harry Dean Stanton movies. There's Paris, Texas, which would be it's like the one that put him on the map as far as like making a name for himself as a leading man, because it's like his only leading role, basically.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, maybe not, but
I mean, yeah, he doesn't seem like a leading man kind of actor unless it's like super indie. Yeah, for sure. Not that he's a bad actor. It's just like he knows how to. He plays parts that aren't leading man wonderfully.
Yes.
Yeah, and he knows how to make other actors better.
Yeah. But anyways, we're not talking about all those other movies. We're talking about Repo Man, which starts out.
Yeah, opening image. It's like it's map of Los Alamos, New Mexico, right? But it's like lit green.
It's like green lit, like a old computer screen somehow, or like old
like from CRT.
Yeah,
monitor. Yeah,
and it starts out immediately with the freaking Iggy Pop theme song.
Yeah, Iggy Pop
just bangs down the door.
Famous from starring in The Crow and the episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine as a Vorta.
That's what he's famous for? Yes. He's not famous for Iggy Pop and the Stooges?
Well, didn't they use that one song in like a toy commercial or a commercial with Barbie?
Which one?
Lust for Life?
What?
Lust for Life?
Probably. I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't seen that Barbie commercial. Anyways.
I just love that Iggy Pop was in Deep Space Nine.
Me too. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. He plays an alien.
What? Of course he does. He looks like a freaking alien.
Well, I was about to say they didn't have to use much makeup for.
Oh man, there's more to the because this movie just came out in the time that I like. It's like this movie came out in the time that I'm the biggest nerd of as far as movies come.
Right.
It came out because Iggy Pop also. This is like when Iggy Pop's career was in the dumps, and I watched an interview about him. An interview of him talking about getting this job to make a theme song. It was like he was in the dumps, he had no money, and this was like a chance at complete creative freedom to make a song and get paid for it. But then you see Iggy Pop comes he becomes a part of the sort of film movement of the 80s. He's in Jim Jarmusch movies.
Yeah.
To this day, he was in The Dead Don't Die, which came out 2018 or 19. But anyways, like, it's just really interesting how this all intertwines in such a small world. Like how Robbie Mueller went on to be the cinematographer of like a bunch of Jim Jarmusch movies, and they all just borrow actors from each other. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so fun to be interested in this time period just because of how much crisscrossing there is. Also, don't let me forget to talk about Bus Driver.
Okay. Well, it's also really great that he had nothing to lose, because when you've got nothing to lose, you swing for the fences.
Yeah.
And then you can knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We don't have to start with the plot of this movie, because
I don't want to talk about the plot. I mean, well, okay. So what the plot is Emilio Estevez plays Otto, who's a disaffected youth in the early 80s. He's a suburban punk. He hates everything, but doesn't know how to express it.
Yes, he does. He moshes, Steven.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he moshes. That's true.
He moshes with his best friend.
That's true. And so he gets fired. He gets fired from his job at a grocery store. And by the way,
oh my gosh, okay, wait. I got things to say about this. Go ahead, though. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, one of my favorite things about this movie are the brand labels on it.
Yes. And I actually watched like an interview about this or something, and because this was such a low budget, basically they just happened to have a surplus of these generic labeled foods, and that was what they had available to them for cheap in order to put in the background for their set decoration. Yeah. And then they just realized that it worked perfectly, so they just completely leaned into it. Yeah. And it's so awesome. It's so amazing.
I love it. So I love gimmicks in movies. Okay. Yes. I love 3D movies in the theater. I watch them whenever I can. I love found footage movies. I love first person POV movies. I love gimmicks. So when a movie has something that's a little odd or weird or, just whatever, and like you said, lean into it hard, I absolutely love it. I think more movies should do that. Yeah. Lean into what you're doing. Don't be afraid. Take that risk. Take that chance. Go for it. Yeah. You'll be more appreciated that way. So yeah, I just love this generic brand.
They literally go to a convenience store and buy two 4-packs of drink.
Yeah. I saw London Dry Gin.
Beer.
What is it? Tastios.
Yes.
Tastios. And it's the same box as just cereal or whatever. It's so great.
It's a white box or white container with blue, all lowercase font. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, and then blue borders on the top and bottom. But you know what that really reminds me of, though, is the John Carpenter movie They Live.
Oh yeah. I haven't watched that movie, but I've watched that part. I watched a scene from it.
Yeah, They Live, which came out in 1988. But yeah, like in that movie, that's a very similar movie to this one in a weird way. Instead of a disaffected youth who's angry at society and is having a hard time finding a job, it's about a disaffected middle-aged man who's angry at society and can't find a job. And whereas Repo Man has those generic labels, they have those subliminal messages, which is the big plot of that movie. I thought that was a very interesting kind of parallel thing between those two movies. That's a hell of a double feature too. Repo Man and They Live.
I haven't seen it and I want to watch They Live. But this movie is so interesting because it just has so much like chopped up and thrown into it.
Yeah.
Like there's these sci-fi elements which are insane. There's the punk elements which are insane. And there's just...
Okay. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say about the plot because we never finished that.
True.
Okay, so...
Just watch the movie.
Watch the movie. And I just want to blow by the plot. Because, and so what happens is... okay. Otto, he can't... he got fired from his job and he's just angry at everything. And then he gets tricked by Harry Dean Stanton, who plays Bud, to help him repo a car. And so, he gets back to the repo place, and then he's like, hey, you're great. Why don't you be a repo man for us? And he's like, Repo Man, I ain't gonna be no Repo Man. And then Marlene, the secretary there, pays him and like, well, you already are. And so then he becomes a Repo Man. And then he gets taught by Harry Dean Stanton and all the other Repo Men, how to do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then while that's going on, there's a side plot about this cult or sect, the secret society that has found like the dead bodies of aliens from Roswell, New Mexico, and this guy has them in the trunk of a 64 Chevy Malibu. Yeah, the sect is trying to get it. The government is trying to get it, and in order to find it, they put out a repo order on it, and that's how those two storylines meet. And so so that's the plot. But all of that is just an excuse for all the crazy shit that happens with all these crazy characters. And it's wonderful.
It's so wonderful and insane.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
Yeah, so you're saying there are sci-fi elements and...
Oh yeah. Just sci-fi elements, sort of... I mean, there's a lot of like, sort of just strange political commentary to the guy. So I wasn't sure if it's alien remains in the car or if it was some sort of other nuclear energy or something. But I think it makes more sense. Well, I don't know. We don't know. The thing is, we don't know anything because it could be aliens. It could be time machine. If you go with, okay, so there's this character. I don't know how to talk about this movie because there's so much to talk about.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so there's hold on. I gotta find the actor. I think his name is Tracy Walter.
We're talking about the character Miller, who is sort of the junk man at the repo place. He's not a repo man. He
works for the repo company, but he doesn't repo any cars.
Maybe
I think he's like a mechanic or something. Yeah. And he's played by the wonderful, wonderful Tracy Walter, who plays, he's in Conan the Destroyer.
No way, really?
Yeah!
Oh my gosh.
He's fucking great in it. But everything about Conan the Destroyer is great anyway. But yes, he plays, he's in Conan the Destroyer, and he's also in the TV show Nash Bridges with Don Johnson and Cheech Marin, where he plays an angel.
What the hell?
Yes. I also believe that he's in the 1989 version of Batman, where he plays one of the Joker's henchmen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so this guy gets around.
Wow.
He's great. He's wonderful. He looks like a not scary bum. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Okay.
You're not wrong. He looks like a friendly neighborhood homeless man.
Yes. Yes. And so like this is the thing about George, why it's just like George Washington, because Emilio Estevez is there, just standing there, and he's like, yeah, man, I don't drive myself because I ride the bus, because when I ride the bus, that's when I do my best thinking. And all these people talking about flying saucers, they're not flying saucers, they're time machines. Because people in South America go missing, but where do they go? And people in the past, well, they just show up. So yeah, what they do is they abduct people here and send them back in time. And the reason why I love that, why I freaked out when you mentioned it, is because I don't believe in conspiracy theories. Like I studied that shit way back in the 90s in X-Files, in the early days of the internet. Okay, and I'm done. I'm just done. But if I were to believe in a conspiracy theory, it's that UFOs, they're not spaceships. They're time machines. They're people from the future, but they've evolved so advanced or in different ways from us that they don't look human to us anymore. And so they're not aliens. They're just us, further down in evolution. And there's even a movie about it called The Last Mimsy.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I know about it.
It's not that good.
It was like a kid's movie, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it has, I think it has the assistant to the manager from The Office, Rainn Wilson, and the woman from the Scarlet Witch TV show, The Villainess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw those
I believe
commercials.
it's Jessica Hahn. So
I saw those commercials everywhere as a kid, and I was like, that movie looks so cool. And Mom was like, no.
it's not that cool. It's not that cool. We might watch it.
Anyways, okay, while we're talking about Miller
Okay.
and his monologues, which are one of the best parts of this movie.
But the thing is, it's like he's not the only one who has monologues, like Bud and Light.
No. But we're just talking specifically Miller's monologues.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to talk about this hip hop artist, one of my favorites. I don't know a lot about hip hop.
Okay.
I am new to it. I'm learning. I'm dumb. But one of the ones that got me into it was Bus Driver, who is from the early 2000s.
Okay.
And his first album, Imaginary Places, I think it's featured on like Tony Hawk soundtrack or something, like Pro Skater soundtrack or something. Anyways, his first album it has like this one track, and the prequel to the track is a part of Miller's monologue. And it's like, the more you drive, the dumber you are.
Yeah.
I don't drive, I ride the bus.
Okay.
And the guy's artist's name is Bus Driver. That's, all the albums, he's still making music today, but he still goes under Bus Driver. And I have this theory because it's in the album, in the first album, and it's a reference to Repo Man, and that just like, it's like Bus Driver is this weird, like, and it also has the part about the lattice work of coincidences, and that like, we don't really know what's going on and stuff. And it's wonderful. But anyways, Bus Driver, if you think about it, Bus Driver's the guy who drives all day, every day. He's the dumbest guy on the planet if you go with that premise. So it's really interesting because, I don't know, I just like the persona of the bus driver as far as in his music. Really interesting. Weird side tangent, but like it is related to Repo Man because he literally uses a clip from it. It's really cool. That's kind of what made me want to watch it. I don't remember if I listened to Bus Driver first or after I'd seen Repo Man, but anyways, the two being connected made me love them both equally more,
Right. I know what you mean.
Anyways, thought that was cool, and I needed to talk about it.
I have to check out Bus Driver's music now.
Yes, I got to show you a few songs.
Uh-huh. So you mentioned the sci-fi elements, right?
Yes.
So the thing I wanted to bring that up about was the repo code.
Yes. This is a very famous part, a very quoted part.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It's like first do no harm to the car or something like that.
Or the contents they're in.
Right. Yeah. Like that's a take off of Asimov's first law of robotics.
Oh yeah. The second is don't let any harm happen to it by inaction.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're complicated, but yeah. I just know that the wording from that was just like the first Asimov's first law of robotics, and so like there's like this whole mishmash of culture. Yeah. In this movie, and reference to other things.
What is that? There's a short story about like this robot that that like runs around in a circle.
There's a whole series of short stories.
Yeah.
So it's called like the I guess like the robot series.
Okay.
It was written by Isaac Asimov, and they're short stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what Isaac Asimov did was he made the 3 laws of robotics as like safeguards for having a world of robots, right?
Right.
But the thing is like each of his stories, each of the robot stories talk about how the law of robotics don't work.
Yeah.
like there are, like you said. So what happened in that story? Because I read that is like I think it's set on Mercury.
Yeah.
And there's a robot that's walking around in circles, and the reason why is because he needs to go save something.
Yeah.
So he runs to save it. But as soon as he gets too near it, like I guess like the radiation or the heat harms him.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to follow his other law, which forces him to run back for his own safety.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as he's safe, then the other law kicks in, and then he has to go back into the part that's dangerous. So he runs back to the part that's dangerous, but then he starts to overheat, and then he has to run back out. So that's what that's about.
Mm-hmm. It's about sort of like the paradoxes of these laws and of existence in a way.
Yeah, well, it's about computation because computers only do what they're programmed to do. They don't do anything else. The problem is when you misprogram them. And so, yeah, we have these 3 laws of robotics, but let's see how they can let's see what happens when they're actually applied blanket. And it's like, no, you need nuance to things. I think that's what those stories are really about. You can't have just blanket laws. You need to understand nuance. And with robots and computers, you have to program those nuances as well. But I'm not a computer programmer at all. I just understand the concept.
I think it's also about existence in a way.
Yeah.
For sure. But that is really interesting. I did not notice that parallel.
Yeah.
But that's really cool.
Yeah. So if nothing else, Alex Cox is a nerd.
Yes, for sure. And you just notice it through all the little crazy things that are going on. What I also love is that just the amount of insane crap that is just in like these voiceover moments of like, because there'll be things happening in the scenes. And if you don't have the subtitles turned on, which we have the subtitles turned on always, you miss like all these little things that like the guys in the hazmat suits are saying to each other, or all the things that, the FBI agents, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed FBI agents are all saying to each other, and like the things on the radio. And it's all just like these like crazy details that they just spent so much time and effort putting in these hilarious but insane details. It's just so much fun.
Well, that reminds me, Zucker, Abrams and Zucker, the creators who did like Airplane and Kentucky Fried Movie, and all those. Okay, so they have a rule where you can have something funny in the foreground, or you can have something funny in the background, but you can't do both at the same time. And so that's kind of what it is, because if you'll watch their movies, okay, yeah, there might not be, it might be like, kind of serious in the foreground, but if you look in the background, there could be something hilarious going on, but you have to look for it.
Yeah.
And so like this movie's a lot the same way. There's like a lot of funny things going on in the background.
Yeah.
One of the things that I also love about this movie,
there's so many one-liners. Holy shit.
Well, I mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no. Well, I mean, that's the thing. That's the reason why I'm like, I can't talk about this movie, is because it's all great one-liners, and so I just be, repeating these one-liners. But I'm not the performer, and there's also the because there's like a lot of sight gags too. Yeah. So it's like, just watch the damn movie. But like one of the things I really liked was like when Otto comes back, he comes to his parents' house. And his parents are just sitting there, dead-eyed. Oh, yeah. Like they're just enraptured by this television evangelist. He's going, people are going to say that, I want you for your money. I do want your money because God wants your money. So just sell your car and give me the money because you don't need that car. And I'm like,
put another mortgage on your house and give me the money.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, yeah, that's it. That's religion nowadays. People who say they're godly, who can't get a job doing anything else. So, they just convince, people in desperate need that, they can provide them with whatever their answers they're looking for, whether they're, and they're mostly lies, but, you have to pay for it. And that's religion. I saved you. Don't go to school. Don't go to seminary. Don't read these holy books. That's what religion is. I told you in 30 seconds.
That's what. Yeah. Interesting.
Yes. Well, at least from the holy men's point of view.
Yes. It's also about controlling society, I think.
Yeah.
And controlling a people and keeping people in order.
Yeah, and well, that's the main thing. This movie shows that because the parents watching them, they're just dead-eyed. I mean, they look high, and it's like, and I think they were passing a joint between them, but it's like, well, what are they really high on? Are they high on the joint, or are they high from watching this televangelist on TV?
I thought it was a cigarette, but it could have been a joint, I guess.
I'm not sure. I think it's more of the televangelist. It's that whole thing, the opiate of the masses. Yeah. That kind of line, and portrayed in a very punk, because cinematic way. Because
Otto, I love that part though. Because Otto comes in and he's like, "Hi, mom and dad. Anything to eat?" He hasn't been there in weeks, I'm sure. He's like, "How are you guys?" He's like, he gets out a can of food, labeled food. And starts eating it cold, and his mom's like, it'd probably be a lot better heated up. And he's like, no, this is just wonderful. Oh, what does he say?
I know. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
He's like, yeah, Dad, you remember how you said if I finished school, you'd give me $1,000 to take a trip to Europe? Well, I've been thinking, and I think that's great. I think I'll do that. But could I get the $1,000 first?
Yeah, and literally in the same breath, he says, "I really love you, Dad, and you too, Mom." And they're like, "No, we actually gave your $1,000 to the Reverend here so that you could be in the honor roll of the Chariots of Fire or something like that." And and he just barely reacts. It's like, "You're kidding." But I love that part. It's so funny because he's such an asshole the whole movie.
Yeah.
And my first time watching this, I didn't really enjoy it that much because I was just like, everyone is an asshole in this movie.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone is an asshole in this movie. But then I talked to a friend and he was like, that's kind of why I like the movie. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. So I watched it, again this time with that in mind. And I was like, okay.
Well, I think it's less that they're an asshole, but it's more like they have that punk mentality where they're going to do their own thing. They don't care. And they don't care what anybody else thinks of them doing their own thing. They're still going to do it. Now, sometimes you come off as an asshole doing that.
Well, I also think there is this sort of self-centered aspect to this. Everyone is completely narcissistic and self-serving.
Yeah.
And no one cares about anyone else. Mm-hmm. That's the thing.
Well, that's the dark side of that kind of mentality where, I'm going to do my own thing. Okay, well, you're going to do your own thing, and you're not thinking of how that affects other people, which is a really interesting take for such a punk rock movie.
It is. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. I just want to circle back real quick to the first time we see Otto at the grocery store. Uh-huh. His friend, I don't know what it is. Kevin. Yes, his friend Kevin, ultimate nerd, but is also a punk.
Yeah.
But Kevin is singing the 7-Up theme song from a commercial.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yes, it was a 7-Up theme song.
Okay.
And they're stacking cans of soda. And he's like, Kevin, shut up. He's like... And then basically they get in a fight and he gets fired. They both get fired. Mm-hmm. I just think that's hilarious. And then we later hear Kevin talking about, I think I'm going to get a job as a fry cook. There's really room to move. I could be a manager in 2 years. King. God. I could be God. And it's just like this sort of like wasteland of just sort of weirdness and I don't know. Just
it's
capitalism and such.
Yes. Yes.
And suburbia and...
Yeah, this movie is 1984. It was made in 1984. It was made the year Ronald Reagan's re-election campaign. So Reaganomics has already been in full swing.
Yeah.
And just that bullshit where, you think you can lift yourself up by your bootstraps. You think you can advance, in a position. And it's like, no, no, you're fooling yourself. The way to make money is to just be an MBA and have already rich parents. And in that way you can become a corporate executive where you make 500 times, salary of the average worker where you don't do anything.
Steven, that sounds good. But the guy I was talking to at the Kava Bar last night, he was telling me all about his business ventures. And
you mean his hustles and his side gigs?
Actually, it was actually kind of interesting what he was doing. Like, I think, he was like, he's not selling drugs anymore, Steven.
Well, that's what's important.
Yeah.
So, it's probably because he can't compete with Big Pharma.
Oh boy! Oh man, that was so good. All right, but should I just let that sit for a minute? Yeah, just let it sit for a minute. Okay, all right. Yeah, that was good stuff.
I don't drop bombs often, but when I do, they're bombs.
They're neutron bombs.
Yeah,
which is another huge part of this movie.
Yeah,
Alex, I watched one of those interviews, and Alex Cox was obsessed with the neutron bomb and the sort of insanity of the neutron bomb, and how he saw it as this incredibly cruel device of like. And there's a character who is driving the Chevy Malibu the whole movie basically. He's the fictional inventor of the neutron bomb, His name is J. Frank Parnell.
Okay.
And he's the crazy guy with
is that the actor?
No, that's the character.
The character's name. Okay.
The character's name. The fictional inventor of the neutron bomb. He drives around with, one sunglass.
Yeah, he looks awesome. He looks great.
He's always sweating because the back is filled with radiation.
Right.
Anyways, so that's a big part of this too, is sort of Alex Cox's like disdain for the neutron bomb and the sort of modern warfare.
Well, definitely Cold War. Like that's the Cold War thing, because when I was growing up, we were anticipating World War III, nuclear Armageddon, like at any time. It was the U.S. versus the Soviets, and we had NATO and they had the Warsaw Pact, and we had our nukes and they had their nukes, and and like it was this ideological, very ideological conflict over not just capitalism versus communism, but also religion versus atheism, and like this was a war for ideas. And only one could survive, and they're gonna annihilate each other. And that's what the neutron bomb was. Like, for those in the audience who don't know, the idea of the neutron bomb, it's a bomb that emits radiation, but the radiation only kills living things. It doesn't actually destroy objects. So if you take a neutron bomb and drop it in the middle of the city, all of the buildings and the infrastructure, it'll still be there. It's just that all the people will be dead. So whoever survives can still come in and move in to the buildings, and they'll still have the roads there so that they can drive around and stuff. And that's what the neutron bomb is. And I learned about that from this series called The Deathlands, which is one of those men's adventure, kind of books. The ones for the real right winger ones,
like The Walking Dead, Surviving the Apocalypse.
Yeah, but more like Remo Williams, for those who know about that. Because the thing is they were made into audio plays for truck drivers.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Interesting.
And I was on a road trip and I bought one, and like, oh wow, yeah, this is really cool. And then it got like really right winger.
Oh boy!
I mean, still fun. Yeah. I'm not going to recommend it though.
But there is that. It's so crazy. I don't know. This movie is really interesting.
Yeah.
With that, and what is his name? Oh, so Bud. What does Bud say? He's like, they were going through the drive-through car wash, and he's like, "No commies in my car," because he's talking about, oh, you don't have to pay for anything in Russia, that's given to you or whatever. And he's like, "You're not a commie, are you? No damn commies in my car, or Christians."
I'm like, base, yeah. He's real centrist, that Bud is. I get it.
Oh man, it's just so funny. And it's interesting, Otto's sort of transformation. But I don't know. It's kind of, I gotta watch it again.
I mean, the really interesting thing, like one of the incredible things about this movie is the costume design. Because we see Otto at the store where he works at. He's got kind of a shaved head, so his hair's a little spiky.
Yeah, it's like a flat top.
Yeah, flat top. Yeah, and so like he's wearing the white uniform for the grocery store, but he's got like a cross dangling from his ear. So he has an earring, but it's not like a little stud. It's like a dangling cross, so it's noticeable. And then he goes out, and then he's at that party with Debbie. And he takes off his pants. And he's like, "Hold on, let me pull my pants." And she's like, "Go get me a beer." And I'm like, "Okay." So he goes out in his underwear to get a beer. And by the time he comes back, Debbie's in bed with Duke. And so, then, you see him in this dirty, street wear. And then he gets introduced to the Repo Man. And then he gets recruited to be recruited into the Repo Man. And Harry Dean Stanton is like, "Yeah, you got to dress like a detective. Detectives dress square, but people don't mess with you if they think you have a gun." And so that's when he wears the white shirt and then the thin black tie. and he looks like Michael Douglas from Falling Down.
Yes. Exactly like Michael Douglas.
A movie we probably watch at some point.
Yes. I want to watch that movie.
Okay, yeah. It's great. And so Repo Man, the famous line, ordinary people spend their lives getting out of intense situations. Repo Men spend their lives getting into intense situations. And so it's like, yeah, but the thing is like, so he's this, Otto's like this punk guy, but he dresses like a square to do his job. And so it's that really interesting paradox that's within the punk mentality where, okay, you want to rebel against society that is just absolutely no good, and yet you have to make these compromises just to exist within the society because society is so large, you can't divest yourself of it. So I thought that was a really interesting paradox, just going from the fashion, the costume design.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really interesting too, the different approaches to the Repo Man that we have.
Yeah.
Because we get Light, who is the other sort of mentor of Otto.
Yeah.
And Light is great too, but he's got a completely different approach than Harry Dean Stanton does. Yeah, I don't know how to exactly to talk about it, but Light is much more like easygoing and get it done no matter what.
Well, first of all, we should mention that Light is a middle-aged African-American man.
Yes. and the name might be a little bit a play on that. And there's a lot of questionable jokes in this movie.
Oh, you mean the scene where Otto is talking to that, sweet, black lady, wearing her robe and with curlers in her hair about how he could take her car, but he's going to be nice and let her keep it. And then, her son and he's apparently in a band, and all of his bandmates, these young, African-American men, young and strapping, come in and surround him and make him uncomfortable just by being young African-American men, sitting around him. Oh, that joke? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. And then then she proceeds to say, oh, you guys took the money that I was going to pay the car off with. And then, and they come on and beat him up.
Yeah, that's one of the very questionable things that happened in this movie.
Yes,
but I don't think there's a whole lot of questionable things like that. That one stuck out though.
Yeah.
So I thought.
No. It definitely is uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah. So Light.
Yeah.
And the difference between him and Bud. Yeah, the thing is like, Bud's a talker.
Yes, I think that's it. That's what it is.
He's just an angry talker. Yeah, I don't know of any Repo Man who doesn't go a day without speed. And then it cuts to them taking a snort.
Just doing lines in the car.
Yeah. And then you have Light, and they repossess a car, and he's like, you like music? Well, then you'll love this. And, he plays one of his cassettes, and he's just driving, and I think he's smoking a cigar. He's talking about, yeah, man, I knew these guys before they were big. I partied with them a lot. and then
they wanted me to be their manager, but I call bullshit.
Light is just smooth, just a lot more smooth compared to Bud, especially in the scene where where Light and Otto, they try to repo this one guy's car,
blue Mustang, right?
I know it's a blue car. I don't know.
Okay,
cars.
yeah.
And so Otto's in the car, and he tries to crank it, and that's when the window gets shot in. So the guy sees him and is shooting him. And so Light, he just rolls up, opens the door, pulls out his piece, and starts firing back.
And Otto, meanwhile, is like crawling out of the blue car that he's supposed to repossession, and he's trying to get back into Light's car. He's like, open the door, open the door, open the door. And he's like, get in your own car.
No, you're still on the job.
Yeah, you're still on the job. Just nonchalantly just firing into this window. And Otto's freaking out, and he gets back into the car, and they drive off. But I love this next scene. The next scene is so interesting to me because they get back and they, impound the car or whatever. And then they're sort of in this, like, they're just sort of chilling out after they get the blue Mustang. And Light pulls out the pistol again, and he shoots Otto in the foot. And he's like, blanks get the job done too.
Yeah.
So I realized that it's not a real live rounds because Otto is like, You know, which is weird too, because this is like the weird, because it's just like the only sort of tenderness we see in the entire movie. Because Otto's like, you can't just go firing into houses like that. You could have killed somebody. He's like, so what if I did? And he's like, man, that's heavy. And it's really, but he's like, it was blanks all along. It's just really interesting. That's sort of the only sort of empathy we get in the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's really strange. Just that one little 30-second scene. I just find that really interesting.
Yeah, and what's happening is, they did that, but Otto needs a beer. After that, and he's just freaking around, walking back and forth. His hand shaking as he tries to drink the beer and calm down. And I thought that scene was interesting because Otto's a punk, he's a tough talker, but that was like the first time his life is really in danger. And what does he do? He freaks out about it. So. That's another thing where you have this whole world of tough talkers, but, in that moment, how tough are you really? Because, think about Light. He pulled up, he, steps out of his car, pulls that piece out, holds it out, and just keeps firing blanks. He knows they're blanks, but the other guy sure isn't, but he's still firing, to also protect Otto. So, yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
I love that part, and watching it again today was really interesting seeing it.
Yeah.
Real quick, I mean, we have a ton more to talk about if we want, but the cinematography of this movie is, if we're gonna do like that theme of, I don't know, either Harry Dean Stanton, whatever, we're gonna watch more movies by the cinematographer.
Okay.
That are gonna be my pick.
Sure.
But I just love the way Robbie Mueller shoots these gradients of light.
Yeah.
If you notice that in the beginning, they pull off to the side of the road. Also very much like square planimetric framing of almost like a Wes Anderson style where everything is sort of in one plane, like the cop walking up to the back of the trunk, the Chevy Malibu, and the cactuses, and so that gradient of sunset or sunrise, whatever it is in the background, get these like beautiful colors that just fade into each other. And then when Otto has just been cheated on or whatever, and he's all moping around. He's also singing TV Party by Black Flag, which is hilarious. He's like down on himself, moping around, singing TV Party. Anyways, he's sitting on the train tracks drinking beer, and this beautiful sunset behind him. But it's not like a flashy sunset with clouds and things. It's just a blank sky with just a gradient of colors and greens and reds, and it's really interesting. The greens, especially.
Yeah, there's a lot of green in this movie.
Yes. In almost all of his movies, Robbie Mueller's movies, the greens are really interesting.
Oh, okay.
Also in this movie, the blues are very interesting too. One of my favorite like looking scenes is whenever they're all the Repo Men are in the car and they're driving around against the Rodriguez brothers.
Yeah.
And they're driving down the highway at night, and it's just these blue bright lights. And it's really interesting and just looks so gritty but also like this sort of futuristic. It's just otherworldly almost. I love it so much looking at it. And there's a lot to love in the way this movie is blocked and photographed. I just really love the way this movie looks.
No, the lighting is really incredible. The part that stuck out to me was the part where Otto comes home, and so he's in the kitchen, and you can see the gradient of shadows on his face. His face is very shadowed, but it's like a gradient. But his parents are watching TV, and the light from the TV is just blasting right in their face, which says something. It says something in that moment. And then we got to talk about the optical effects for the climax of the movie. When the Chevy Malibu turns green itself.
Yeah, that was crazy. I have no idea how they did that.
I'm not sure how they did that either. I mean, part of me wonders like maybe they it was animated over.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I don't know, or maybe they spray painted it with like a luminous paint or something. It could have been that. I'm not sure.
Either way, I love it though.
Yeah, and they did some really great lighting effects. Because the light does come from the car. It is green light, and you can tell. But yeah, I'm just not sure how they did that.
I don't know either. It's really incredible though. I love it. And there's so much cool stuff about this movie. I don't even know how to get into it.
Yeah.
One part I loved, I don't know if I don't know if it was intentional, but there's a part where it's toward the end of the movie and everyone's racing around to get the car. And it's like sort of the final act. And everyone knows about the car and everyone's trying to get it. And Harry Dean Stanton is driving it. He's just been in the hospital because he got shot in the ear or whatever. And so he's driving the car away from the FBI agents. Or no, the FBI agents are chasing after it. And one of them, I don't know if he trips or what, but he trips and he slides. But they animated like a lightning bolt coming out of the car and zapping the guy.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if it was like, I don't, to me, I think that was an accident. Like the guy tripped.
Yeah.
And they just like made the best of it and just zapped him.
Yeah. And then after that, they did other zapping effects that didn't hit anybody.
Yes. I love this so much. That's my theory. At least.
Yeah. So you mentioned the scene where Bud gets shot in the shootout at the liquor store. And I just want to say what happens before and what happens after is one of the best parts of the movie. Because you know where I'm going with Debbie and Duke?
Debbie and Duke are just so funny. The entire movie, they're so funny. Also, Duke looks so strange. He's got the longest neck. And that's coming from me, a man with an entirely too long neck.
Yeah, and so like throughout the movie, because what this movie is like a whole bunch of subplots that eventually meander together to the final climax. Is one of those movies, and it's great. And so Duke and Debbie, you have Duke and Debbie and then their friend Archie, who have been going around holding places up either before Bud and Otto get there or after Bud and Otto get there.
Or during in one scene.
Yeah. And so before the final shootout, Duke and Debbie are in the car. Archie looked in the trunk.
Archie has been vaporized.
Yeah.
By the trunk.
Yeah, he looked in the trunk
of the Chevy Malibu. Sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. And so Duke and Debbie, they're sitting in the car, but the car's facing outward so we can see them. And they're about to hold up another liquor store. And Duke is like, now that we have some money, I want to get a house, settle down. I want you to have my baby. and she's like, why? And he's like, well, I mean, everybody does it. It seems like the thing to do. And Debbie's obviously not down for it. So she's like, yeah, fuck it. Let's just, rob the place. So they rob it. A shootout happens. And then Duke gets shot, right in the chest. And Otto leans down to him. And what is it that, do you remember what Duke says? He said something like, yeah, man, it's okay.
He says, I know my life of crime has led me to this place, but at the same time, man, I'm here because of society.
Yeah, I still blame society.
I still blame society. That's what he says. And that's when Otto was like, whatever, man. You're just a white suburban punk just like me.
Yeah.
And he's like, you'll be fine. And then he starts choking up blood, and he's like, maybe you won't be fine.
Yeah. Well, in that scene, the actor, he really plays it up. He stretches that.
That is a Shakespearean death, yes. Oh, I am dying. I see the darkness.
And so, yeah, that's what's so funny to me, because, like, I know, like, that's an issue, like, within the punk movement. It's like, how much of being a punk is just being young, and, what happens to punks, when they settle down? How do punks raise a family? That thing. And I know that there's a documentary out there, that kind of explores. I haven't seen it, but, I know that's kind of, one of the issues. People in these, kind of punk rock movements, that's something they have to deal with at some point. And, this movie is so fun. It's hilarious.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, for sure.
I love to, what did they say? After Archie gets vaporized, they're like, whatever, let's go do crimes. And they're like, let's get sushi and not pay.
Hey, Duke has seen a lot, he needs to tone it down a little. Need a break, Yeah. It's
so good.
Yeah, it's a great movie. For sure. And I mean, it's It's just so well written, and there's so many great one-liners. And, you know, I didn't want this podcast to be like, hey, you know, that one-liner isn't that great? Hey, that one-liner isn't that great?
Okay.
So that's why I said at the beginning, hey, just watch the damn movie yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's worth it. Trust me.
It's really, there's just so much in this movie.
Yeah.
This just freaking, I don't even, another part that I'm just reading through my notes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's driving the repossessed car, one of his first, as he's first getting into it. And he runs over some trash, and this old lady's like, pick up the trash, and he's flirting with this girl, and she ends up being, you know, his girlfriend or whatever, or sort of.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm not picking up that trash, and he's like, someone has to pick up the trash. Someone has to. He's like, whatever, lady, and he drives off. It's just like, that was an interesting little thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's both. She could be like a square old lady that they're annoying at, but it's also like someone has to pick up the trash. In reality.
Well, it's very interesting, Matt, because Emilio Estevez would go on to direct and star in, with his brother Charlie Sheen, a comedy called Men at Work, in which him and Charlie Sheen play garbage men. So yeah. That makes that seem a lot more interesting in hindsight.
I was saying it more of a sort of like, you can't be a punk and just let the trash build up forever.
Oh. No. I do everything as a movie reference to some other movie.
Gotcha.
That's where my brain always goes.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, you're right. It's like punks hate society, and yet society has these functions that we need to exist, you know, together in a community.
Yeah.
You know, how do you resolve that? Well, I mean, the way to resolve that though is to not have a shitty society, because there are a lot of things. There are a lot of reasons to be disaffected by society, especially nowadays as much as back in the 80s. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyways.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was that's the other thing I wanted to mention, the part where he basically has a girlfriend now who's part of the UFO cult. And so they kidnap him. And so they decide to torture him to get information. But it's his girlfriend pushing the button to torture.
It's so funny though, because like she's on the table or whatever at first, and they're like, and she's like, "Are you gonna torture me? I would if I knew that it would help. I'd do it without any second thought." And then she's not on the table, and her boyfriend's at the table, and she's like zapping him.
Yeah.
Also, the main arch nemesis lady or whatever with her freaking metal glove. What is that about? It's so weird. She's like tightening the glove with a screwdriver at one point in time. It's like this magical cosmic glove that she like holds out. There's just so many weird things in this movie that make it so much more interesting.
Yeah. And, you know, nothing's ever explained, but it doesn't need to be explained. I mean, you know, this is a world that you just get lost in. I mean, you know, I think that's what it is. It's like an Alice in Wonderland movie for sure.
Yeah. I love to, who is it picks up? Oh, it's Light. Light picks up a copy of Diuretics.
Matter Over Mind.
Which is the Scientology book, if I'm right?
Well, it's a takeoff of that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's like dialectics or I don't know. It doesn't matter because it's terrible.
I thought it was heavily involved with the Scientology.
Yeah, it is making fun of that for sure.
Yeah. Well, anyways, it's just really funny because he picked it up from a rich guy in Malibu or something. Yeah. Because normal people, especially poor people, can't afford to be Scientologists.
No, they can't.
And I just think it's really interesting. And then in the end, the very end,
you have the one agent. He's like, yeah, you know, this is a great job. You know, this is my 9 to 5. You know, I'm down for this job. And then you have the other guy going, yeah, Vector 349er. And they're like, hey, have you ever read Diuretic? And I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, verse, chapter 3, verse, 72. Yeah, I marked it right here. That's such a great.
Yes, and then the televangelist is there with the Bible.
Yeah,
and it gets zapped, and he drops it, and he's like, "Holy sheep shit!"
Visual storytelling. Proof of aliens will surely destroy religion. I guess that's what it's saying. But they're not aliens, they're time travelers from the future.
Exactly.
So us from the future Proof of us coming back in time is right. Is that what Alex Cox is saying in this movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. It's as good as a examination of this masterpiece of cinema as any other.
There's so many good things in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't know. I wrote more things down. I could talk about those. I don't know. Should we keep going?
No. I just want to tell them to watch the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, are any of those things that they would get just by watching the movie?
Well, okay. Harry Dean talks about how his credit is spotless.
Yeah.
And how he's gonna use this Malibu, the $20,000 from the Malibu reward, to start his own junk pile, like junkyard.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's just really interesting because credit is such a weird concept. It's such a terrible kind of thing that we have in the U.S. And it's very racist based and very just sort of prejudicial.
Mm-hmm.
And it started out as a prejudicial thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just really interesting that Harry Dean is so obsessed with his credit, but he's never going to be able to afford anything, even with his spotless credit.
I mean, that's the thing about credit is credit can do a lot of good because it allows you to borrow money now and pay back on interest for profits that you make in the future. That's basically what credit is. And that can be helpful. That can help people who are poor now have the money to raise themselves in a position to where they can live a better standard of living, a better quality of life for themselves. So credit can be a good thing. The problem is that here in the United States, instead of raising wages of employees everywhere in all industries, we tell people to raise their standard of living by using their credit. And that's terrible. That's horrible. And that does not work. That only keeps the poor poor. It does not raise the poor up. So yeah, that's my feelings on that. But I mean, you're right. It's that thing where Americans are temporarily embarrassed millionaires. A lot of people, they vote against their interests when they, vote against unions and labor organizing because they think one day they'll hit it big and become millionaires themselves and will never have to work again, where that just does not happen. If it happens, it's usually because you have to do some kind of scheme that steals money from poorer people who don't know any better, and you're a terrible person for doing that.
It just reminds me of, because I work at Walgreens, right? And like they want us to get these credit cards.
Oh yeah.
They want us to sell the credit cards, and they're like, and they go on and they tell us, even if these people don't get the credit cards, even if they just apply, you still get $4.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's intentionally screwing up people's credit scores to make your store seem better. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's seriously hurting people. Yeah. It just drives me insane.
Mm-hmm. I don't care. No. I don't care. Bottom line.
No.
Mm-hmm.
$4, man. $4 is $4.
Mm-hmm. They just want to take. Businesses nowadays. They just want to take money from people however they can, and they don't care if what kind of services or goods they provide in return for it.
Anyways, we always end up here.
Yeah. It's funny how that happens, right? It's almost as if, these movies are reflections of society and the society that we live in, And, we have to talk about it. I mean, but movies shouldn't be political. I mean, movies aren't ever political.
Never. Art?
Yeah.
Anyways, let's bring it back to a lighter note.
Jet.
Tom Cruise in a jet?
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why that was a big draw, was because people were like, Top Gun, was it Maverick? Yeah, man, it's not political. It's not woke at all. And I'm like, a movie about, a cog in, America's military-industrial complex? That's not political at all?
I didn't see Top Gun Maverick. So.
I haven't seen it yet. It's nominated. It's nominated for Best Picture.
I know. A lot of people said it was really good. I don't know what's so funny about that. I don't know what's so funny. I saw the commercials for it. I was like, I am not going to see that movie. It looks like garbage.
But it's an Oscar-nominated movie. You're obligated.
What? You're gibberish right now.
It's been nominated. It could be the best movie any filmmaker ever in America has made this year. It could be. It could be. You don't know. You got to see it.
I know. I got to watch it. When it first came out, I was like, that looks like garbage. It looks like hot garbage. Another terrible remake. Good job, Hollywood.
Well, hold on.
My friends...
It's not a remake.
Sorry. Sequel.
Well, it's a requel.
Reboot, requel, whatever the hell. Anyways, a bunch of my film friends said it was really good, so I guess I gotta go see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna watch it spitefully.
Okay.
Because the first Top Gun wasn't even that good.
We'll have that argument some other time.
Wasn't that good?
We'll have that argument some other time.
It was good if you're watching it with the queer lens.
Whoa, that's valid. That is valid.
Yes, it is.
Very, very valid.
But if you're not, it's a boring movie.
I don't know. We'll talk about that movie later. I mean, I have this. I kind of really love Tom Cruise movies. I know I shouldn't.
You're such a square, Steven.
I guess so. I guess so. I need to get a copy of Diuretics.
Yeah.
Matter of mind.
You need to get a copy of Institutionalized by Suicidal Tendencies. You need to get a copy of Iggy Pop, Circle Jerks, and Black Flag.
Bus Driver.
Exactly.
You listen to Bus Driver. Mm-hmm. I only dress like a square, so nobody messes with me.
There you go. But it's really weird. I mean, I was really feeling like this is a random sort of story tangent. I was feeling very overwhelmed by like sort of society in general. And like, how do I do this? I feel like such a failure sometimes. But there are people who are able to make it and who do work hard and make a life for themselves. Even if it's not they don't have to be millionaires, but people do work hard and get somewhere with their life, but it just feels so far away.
Yeah, people do. The thing is that it's just getting harder and harder and harder. That's the problem.
But I was just feeling very small. Very hopeless and small. I mean, I still live with my parents and don't know how to get where I want to be in life. Other than, I have a few goals and stuff. Anyways, I was like, I just wanted to listen to some music. And one of the songs that I love, it's my favorite song off this album. I mean, this movie soundtrack is The Plugs, called, I think, Reel 10, REEL 10.
Okay.
It could be, now that I'm thinking of it, like I don't know, never mind. Forget about that. But it's the finale music, and it's this sort of spaghetti western, almost like just beautiful orchestration as the car is taking off and lifting off, and they're just driving around in space. And it's like, I don't know, it's just so beautiful in some ways, because it's just like they're just in this pile of steaming garbage that is this sort of insane movie world that they're in, and everyone's just killing each other. Everyone's shooting each other over the Malibu for $20,000. And they just sort of like lift off and transcend. And it's beautiful, even though Otto does not deserve that. He doesn't deserve the happy ending. He's a terrible person.
The girlfriend.
Yes. What about our relationship? Fuck that.
I'm glad I tortured you.
And he goes, I love it too. He's like, he's talking to Bud as Bud's in the car, because Bud has finally got into the car and is in the repossession yard. And Bud's in the car looking exhausted because he's just gotten out of the hospital. And he's like, and Otto's like, all right, well, come on, man, let's get out of here. We'll take it. Split it 60-40. And Bud's like, who gets the 60? And he pulls out his gun and he's like, you do.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing though. One other thing about this movie that I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Bud doesn't carry a gun.
Yeah. He makes a point of saying he doesn't carry a gun and it's better to just run away.
Because a car is not worth a life.
Yeah.
Is what he says.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're in the liquor store and he gets shot because he pulls out a gun.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's really interesting. It's because I don't know if it's because he got fired and something happened there, is that he feels he needs to carry the gun now in order to make it somehow, because now he's lost his job.
Mm-hmm.
I could be reading into it too deeply, but it is really interesting that he made it a point of not carrying a gun. And then in the second part, towards the end of the movie, he's carrying a gun in that scene and in the end when he shows it to Otto.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting.
Well, he's a middle-aged, white man who has had a steady job for 11 years, and then he suddenly gets laid off. Maybe he's falling down.
Maybe so.
We'll have to watch that movie.
Yes, we need to. It's on my list, actually.
Okay.
I don't know if because that's a more mainstream movie, so you might have to pick it.
Oh, you can pick whatever movie, you want, for sure. Mm-hmm.
All right, what are we talking about now? Is this the end?
Well, the only other thing I want to mention briefly is there's so many different kinds of what?
Sorry, I just wrote another quote that I wrote down.
Go with it.
It's when Bud and Otto are in the car, and Bud's trying to talk to him after he's been fired, and he's like, "I feel like we're not communicating anymore." It's just really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing I wanted to mention briefly is there's all different kinds of music for the soundtrack. A lot of punk music.
Yeah.
What really impressed me was the bits of surfer rock.
Yes.
that are throughout the movie.
Yes, and that's the Plugs. So
okay,
that's this band. It's really hard to find them. I only listen to them on YouTube. I can't find them on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the Plugs, Plugz.
Okay,
and they're sort of this punk band. But I believe they are, I don't know, they could be, it's like a Spanish influence.
Okay.
And it's wonderful. A lot of this movie also has Spanish influences in it, in some ways, which I think is interesting.
Well,
some of it's racist feeling, but...
Well, so the funny thing is, how Bud tricks him is my wife, she's pregnant, she's, she's about to give birth to twins. Will you help me, move her car? This is a dangerous neighborhood. And he's like, yeah, if you'll give me $20 for it. And he's like, yeah, sure. Here are the keys. So he gives Otto the keys and he goes into his Bud's wife's car. He cranks it on. He turns on the radio and instantly Spanish music.
And there's a rosary on the dashboard. Yeah. And then we cut in and we see the car from the 2-story window.
Yeah.
And we hear something about a gringo downstairs. Yeah. And then they come out and chase him. Yeah,
and I'm like, well, you crank up that car. You hear that music. That's not his wife's car. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the soundtrack, actually, what's really interesting too is the soundtrack album came out, and that's kind of what gave this movie its second life.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is a movie you watch the soundtrack for. Yeah, for sure.
It's like compilation of a whole generation of punk music.
Mm-hmm.
It is a capsule of that time period.
Yeah.
In the 80s and early 80s. If you ever watched The Decline of the Western Civilization, I think maybe I don't know if it's the first one or the second one, but a lot of those bands are included. It's this sort of West Coast punk scene.
That's the documentary about punk rockers, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very brutal.
Okay.
It's a really interesting movie, but it's very... it shows it for what it is, for punk music for what it is, and all its ugliness and sort of interesting. It's beautiful, but there's a lot of ugliness to it and a lot of bad things to it. But this music is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot of... It's just cool. It's cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what I was saying was, this movie wasn't really big in the theaters.
No.
And then,
I can tell.
And then people picked it up, the soundtrack,
mm-hmm.
and it raised even more interest in that.
Okay.
It's very interesting. Anyways.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Ladies, gentlemen, and otherwise, that was our episode about Repo Man.
Yes, it was.
So yeah.
That was your movie. No, that was Repo Man.
That was Repo Man.
This has been your movie, my movie.
Yeah.
All right.
With
cool.
Dan and Steve.
With Dan and Steve.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm Steve.
I'm Dan.
And we'll see you next episode if you stay with us after this.
Please don't leave.
Yeah, support our Patreon. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.